But I decided that that's how I was going to run my practice, just to always be available. Everyone started cancelling the direct debits because they were in panic mode. You know what I mean? He said, fantastic. Can I have a reference, please? So I thought, oh, she didn't realize she's my first bookkeeping client.
What was your first client? What were their business? What was your account?
He was a taxi driver. And
I'm sure he hasn't done his tax accounts for years. Taxi drivers.
The first time in my entire life, I couldn't find a job.
Hi guys, welcome to another edition of Entrepreneur Insights. This week's guest, we have the wonderful Eloise. Look, she's smiling already. Who's an accountant, and she's smiling because it's very unusual. You know, there's a stigma attached to accounting, isn't it? That they're meant to be boring. I assure you guys, Eloise is not. Eloise, how you doing, sweetie?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so honored to be here. I hope I do it justice.
You're going to do something justice, I'll tell you that. Listen, you are an accountant, all right? First of all, tell us, how long have you been an accountant before? And then we can get it.
Well, to narrow it down, I've been running my own business for about 15 years. I'm AAT qualified. I'm a fellow member of AAT, licensed.
When did you open your business as an accountant?
Well, that again is a story. So what happened was, in 2008, with the economic decline and the crash and everything, I actually had my son at that period. So I was off work for about 3 years. And then I decided it's time to go back to work. And so I went back looking for a job. And for the first time in my entire life, I couldn't find a job. I was unemployable. I was in my 40s. I hadn't worked in several years. I mean, there were so many people unemployed, so they had the absolute pick. And I just literally thought, oh, well, I better open up my own business. I placed an advert in the newspaper and waited for the phone to ring.
Okay.
That was it. Yeah.
Okay. And so did the phone ring?
It rang indeed. It was so nerve-wracking because obviously when you start your own business, you don't have a boss. You are the boss. So you have to make the final decision. So it's a lot of doubting yourself. Am I doing the right thing? Do I know what I'm doing? It was very nerve-wracking, but it literally took off.
Hold a minute. When you say, I misunderstood you. When you said, I thought you said you was hunting for a job and the phone rang for you to get a job. But what you're actually saying, you advertised your business. You advertised your business. Wow.
Yes,
and then you got a breakthrough. That's what you're saying to me. You got a breakthrough. All right.
Yes.
So brilliant. How did you feel when you got this breakthrough? That's what
awful. I thought I was going to pass out. It was awful because, I'd never actually had an accounting role, let's say, in England. Okay. So it was always sort of payroll assistant or purchase ledger assistant. Now I'd finished my AAT, etc., but I hadn't actually worked in England as an accountant. So, I had a couple of friends that, offered support, etc., but it was extremely nerve-wracking because there was no sounding board. Like 15 years ago, now everything's online. There are WhatsApp groups for everything. People are tripping over themselves to talk about things, give you advice, tell you what software they're using. 15 years ago, not so much at all.
What was your first client? What was their business? What was your accountant?
He was a taxi driver. And because I'd never done self-assessments before, so he phoned me up and he basically phoned me up and said, look, I haven't done a tax return for a couple of years. I don't have any receipts or anything. Can you help me out? So
I'm sure he hasn't done his tax accounts for years. Taxi drivers. We don't. So anyway, okay, you took him on board.
Yes, but instantly I phoned my friend. I said, oh my gosh, do I say yes? Do I say no? This sounds like a con. Who doesn't keep their receipts? What? And obviously now, years later, this is complete standard practice. You know what I mean? So as long as he gave me his bank receipts, we could kind of piece it all together. But in the beginning, that's how it was. I was finding my feet. I was asking questions all the time. I was like grappling for sort of CPD, groups, something that I could join. And I remember years ago, there was one, because nothing is straightforward. Absolutely every single person that comes along has a story, and it's not straightforward, the norm. It doesn't fit in the exact same mold as everybody else's story. There's always a, and then this happened. So I remember I signed up to a CPD where you were allowed to ask sort of a couple of questions. So of course I had so many. And then they started capping me. They were saying, well, that's too in-depth. We need, you need to pay for a 15-minute consultation. And it was really heavy going in the beginning.
So, okay. So your taxi driver will be your first client, yeah?
Yes.
And then what happened? What developed after this, after him or her?
Then I got so I literally had no business plan. I didn't know what direction I was going in. I mean, I hadn't even phoned HMRC once in my entire lifetime at that stage, you know what I mean? So my next job, actually, it was a lady with her own company. She had a couple of staff, and she wanted someone to come in and do her books, the actual bookkeeping, once a week. So I was walking around Sainsbury's when I got the phone call. So I said, yes, of course, I would love to. That's exactly what I do. She said, fantastic. Can I have a reference, please? So I thought, oh, she didn't realize she's my first bookkeeping client. A reference, you say? So my husband, he didn't take my surname, and he had his own business. So I just gave his number. I said, can you, here's a reference. So she phoned him, and he said, of course, I'm a fantastic bookkeeper, etc. And I had her for 10 years.
Look at this dodgy accounting.
I'm not helping.
So hold on. So what happens? So because what it is now, you're developing a little story. You've studied, you've done your study. You've come over to the UK. You're searching for work. You couldn't find work. You almost gave up. And so and then the phone call rang. Bingo! A taxi man wants you to do his books. How did you advertise? When did you advertise your services?
Back in the day, so I mean, 15 years ago, sort of, you would put an advert in maybe your local newspaper. Like your little one that comes around. I don't think I did that. I used Gumtree in the beginning a lot. Okay. And I just kept putting the same advert on reliable bookkeeper. I just kept running the same advert. And I literally got most of my business from there initially. And I remember my husband printed a sign for me. It just said, are you tired of your accountant, or something like that? And he stuck it like on a fence at the roundabout. Okay. I cannot tell you. I've got a client to this day that saw my advert on that roundabout. So it was there for years until I think someone pulled it down. But I got a lot from there. And then it just grew from there. And I have literally never advertised again.
Wow. Well, that's something in itself. So what happened then? You expanded, obviously. You got 2 clients.
It grew. It literally grew. Every time the phone rang, I said, of course, okay, yes, no problem, yes, of course. So I wasn't being discernible whatsoever. I took everybody, big, small, and then I grew so quickly. I think within the first year, I took on a staff member working from my dining room table, and I took on a staff member, sort of part-time, and then I was so worried about paying her wages that I started going out to companies and doing bookkeeping in their premises, like once a week. So Monday I'd go there, Tuesday I'd go there. So my staff member was sitting comfortably at my dining room table working away, and I was going out to companies, sitting in their offices all day just to ensure I could pay the wages. And that went on for a couple of years, and then it grew so fast, and I didn't have a plan, and I was constantly chasing my tail, and it was frantic, it was stressful, and then lockdown happened. Put an end to all that.
Okay. So what happened during lockdown? Because you could you still had a phone, didn't you? You still had a phone, and you could still communicate by internet, I suppose.
But listen, I've been so lucky. It is literally like I've just kind of made the right decisions, literally blundering my way along. So I was out somewhere. I mean, in those days, you went to lots of sort of networking things. And I was out somewhere, and I heard something about Sage is launching a cloud accounting. And this is probably in my first year of running my business, opening my business. And I had to pay for Sage Desktop. It cost an arm and a leg in those days. And you had to have a separate license for every single client company. And then you had to have a separate license if you had a staff member. I mean, it was about £1,000 a month. It was extortionate. So when I heard the cloud, I jumped on it with both feet and I didn't even look back. But then in those days, everyone was so wary of the cloud and where's my data and what if it gets hacked? I didn't even think. I thought this is so easy. It's a third of the price. So by the time lockdown came, most of my clients were in the cloud.
Okay.
So it was almost like I'd planned it. So I didn't have to scramble, hustle, look for software, buy laptops. I was already sort of set up. So I had sort of 3 staff at that stage. They were all working sort of on a part-time basis that suited them. And so they were already at home with their laptops, logged in the cloud. So that went very well. It's just everyone had their own personal crisis. So sort of one by one, 2 of the staff members literally disappeared. You know what I mean? I think they had their own stuff to deal with and they just disappeared. The one staff member, I kept him going all the way through because now everyone panicked on day one because accountants, you have your monthly direct debit. So everyone pays you X amount a month, and then by the end of the year, they've paid sort of for the whole year's work and end of year, etc. Everyone started cancelling the direct debits because they were in panic mode. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I mean, I took on again extra work to ensure I could keep my staff member, which I did. It was awful, another awful period. I worked 7 days a week. Clients were not themselves. They were irate, they were rude, they were shouting, they wanted everything now. It was awful. And got through lockdown and no one knew what business is going to survive or not. You know what I mean? What sector is going to survive? I survived.
Let me just stop you there. When it comes to dealing with other people's businesses, did you have to advise them that they're on what direction that they're going in? Is that the level of accounting you went to?
Actually, no. I tell you why. Because it was so busy. It was so overwhelming. The government was putting so many changes into place weekly. You know what I mean? So just trying to read the compliance, keep up, action it, do it. There was no time to sit back and have these wonderful long conversations. I mean, all I remember is everybody wanted their accounts now. I want a loan. I want a loan. I want my accounts. That's all we were doing. And obviously payroll and furlough. That's all we were doing. Everybody, all of a sudden, everybody wanted to be up to date. They had so much time sitting at home. They nitpicked everything. I'm talking I had one guy, he was changing the accounts to add parking receipts that he forgot about. It was frantic. All of a sudden, everyone had so much time in the world. They just went through everything with a fine-toothed comb. I was working 7 days a week. The whole world was barbecuing, and it was frantic.
When you do your accounts, do you prefer smaller businesses, larger businesses, or are you not concerned who you take on board?
Okay, so now we get into my next phase. So after lockdown, my client, my staff member let me down. I kept him going all the way through, and then one day I said to him, please, he took time off, and I said, I need this VAT return done, this week. I gave him the time off, and then he said, well, I don't work on Saturdays. Life is too short. So I thought, excuse me. I said, okay, we're done. So then after lockdown, I literally brought everything in-house. I no longer went out to clients. I didn't have any staff. I sort of let go of the clients that were unhappy, let's say. And then I just sort of honed everything in, and I felt in control. It felt manageable. Sorry about that.
One of your clients now phoning you. Where's my accounts?
I heard you. I heard what you said.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I just felt more in control. You know what I mean? I mean, my staff members made a lot of mistakes, which you pick up sort of when you go to do year end. So they've already been paid. They've done it 6 months earlier. And I just felt like I was being so let down. So I just literally did everything myself. It felt amazing. I felt so in control. And then I had so much more time to talk to the customers. And then my practice took a whole other journey. I was talking to them, I was getting to know them, their situation, their circumstance, where they're going, what they want. It just was so lovely, and I really got to know them so much better. And I sort of cared about them, cared about their situation, if they were having a tough year. So yeah, that's what I do now. So now, yes, I take on small businesses, either sort of owner managed or with a couple of staff, or a partner or two directors, sort of that type of thing. And I just help them grow in their practice. So that's where I'm at now.
No, that's absolutely beautiful, because people don't understand how important accounts are to businesses.
Yes.
Can you explain how important accounts are to businesses?
Well, first of all, can I say they don't realize, a lot of them, how important you can be. You know what I mean? So I mean, like I'll give you an example. A client phoned me yesterday. Just quickly, she said, "Oh, I hope you don't mind. I'm going to pay myself a little bit more this month." And then I said to her, "Well, we do a chat. I have been trying to get her in for a chat. Why don't you pop in and have a chat?" And she came in today. And that little statement, "I just want to pay myself a little more," it was so loaded behind. So once we started chatting, she was having a very good month. It was her first good month in ages. Business had turned around and it's now picking up. And her husband kept saying, "I want a holiday. You've had a good month. Can we start now booking the holiday?" And she was a little bit trepidatious, because obviously one good month doesn't mean we're rolling in it. And we had such a long chat. And she said, "You know what? Can we do this more often, please?" Because, I said to her, obviously, just because you've had a good month, just remember to put money aside for your VAT. You still got to mind your cash flow going forward. And we sort of discussed her salary. And it just really opened up exactly what's happening in her business, rather than, can I pay myself a little more? Yeah, sure, no problem. You know what I mean? So that valuable. I mean, I've had so many clients who do something and then they tell me after the fact. And I say, "But why didn't you come to me first? I would have said, do it this way or that way, or wait." You know what I mean?
Do you find it difficult? Have you ever come across any businesses that are going to sort of like not make it, and you have to advise them and tell them that? Or
since I've been advising, they've been doing very well. Thank you very much. But,
what an angel. I like that.
I have had clients in the past. This is why it's valuable. I have had clients in the past that didn't come to me, and they obviously wanted to buy a house. They drew all the available cash out, obviously thinking you're going to put it back. But I'm a director. It's my company. It's my income. Draw it all out. Year-end comes. You can't afford to pay it. You got the huge overdrawn director's loan account. Now you got this tax bill. You've sucked the life cash flow out of the business. You can't afford the tax bill. You can't afford to pay the director's loan back. So yes, they definitely get into a spot of bother. That's why I keep saying, talk to me before, talk to me monthly. So now, I mean, before, when I first opened my practice, I was always chasing my tail, doing year end after year end, and you can't backdate things. It's very hard to give value and be of value, because you're doing everything late. So now I say to them, I will not work with you unless you work with me on a monthly basis. You know what I mean? And have the conversations and talk, and, so then you're adding value and they can feel the value.
Well, it's almost like they become your babies, don't it? It's like these are your little mini baby projects, if you see what I mean. Each individual.
Yes, I do become attached, definitely. I definitely feel for them, I mean, they've got their family life, they've got their business, they've got the pressures. There's so much going on. But I find business owners they're just so passionate and innovative, and they've got drive. They don't have a boss, pushing them forward. They do it sort of all on their own, whilst running their family, etc. So I have huge respect for small business owners.
What type of value would you say that you offer to any company wanting to join you?
So the value is, as I said to my clients right now, sort of the changes are happening all the time throughout the year. So if I work with you throughout the year as they're happening, for example, April, everything happened in April, the minimum wage, the employers, NI, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? So if you're an owner managed only yourself, it would be helpful if you took someone on because of the NI bill you're going to have. So you save the money on the NI bill. As we're working through the year, we keep an eye on your net profit, your overdrawn director's loan account. Will you benefit from dividends, or will you benefit from a bonus rather, or a bigger salary, which is a business deductible expense? So by working with them, suddenly all of a sudden they get a big contract and they grow and everything's changed. So if they come to you after the year end, I mean, I had one guy, he's a sole trader actually, but he's been going many years, and he comes to me at the end of the year every year. He came to me sort of last year at the end of the year. He'd gone over the VAT threshold in the second month of that year.
Oh my!
I wanted to cry because it's my job, but it wasn't, because he always only came once a year. So on that basis, it's your job. But obviously, if he'd come to me more regularly, I could have advised.
Let's just explain to people what the VAT threshold is, because I know it changes. But what is a VAT threshold? Explain to the people that may not know. This is coming
Thank you. So it's just turnover, only your income, the money generated from sales. So when you reach £90,000 in a rolling 12 months, so it's not in your year and then the next year it starts all over again from scratch. You always take this month backwards 12 months. And then next month you add a month and take off a month from the end. So it's a rolling 12 months. And when you're nearing the threshold, you should then make the decision to go back registered. But even that is a big decision, because then all of a sudden your fees are going up 20%. So you have to look at who's your customers. Are they consumers or are they businesses? If they're businesses, it doesn't even phase them, because they will literally claim it back on their VAT return. So you must either decide leading up to it, where you inch your sales price up a tiny bit to compensate, and then you can maybe half take the hit, or you need to prepare, otherwise maybe you start losing customers. So it's vital to plan.
Vital plan. And basically what she's saying is the VAT that you pay on goods compared to the sales VAT you pay for your goods, the balancing of the differences is what you have to pay at the end of the year, or in the month, which is it quarterly. And that's what she's basically saying to you. So you have to be very careful how you spend your money. Now, Eloise, you've now grown a business. What's your business name?
Christchurch Accounting Services.
Guys, as it's got nothing to do with religion, has it? How did the name come about?
It's Christchurch in Dorset. So it's because that's where I live. It's Christchurch.
Right.
So I told you I had that one friend. He's an accountant in South Africa. And I just thought, golly, what do I call myself? And he said, for Google Places, for people to search for you, you're in Christchurch, just call it Christchurch. So I'm literally stuck with that name.
Christchurch Accountants or just Christchurch?
Christchurch Accounting Services.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Christchurch.
It's a mouthful.
No, not really. It's a lovely name. Now, why would someone come to you rather than any other accountant?
Because I am personable. I take the time. I am always available to my clients. So if they have a quick question, sometimes you want to make a decision, but you just want one quick question answered before you can move on. So if you send me a WhatsApp, I always get back. If you email me, if you phone me, if you say, look, I'm working all day, can you possibly squeeze me in on a Saturday morning? I can only get to you at the end of the day. Would 6 o'clock be okay? So I make myself available for my clients. Obviously, as I was growing my practice and sort of having new clients come along, I didn't know how other accountants run their business, but now I know. I mean, a lot of accountants, they don't do that. It's very time consuming, you know what I mean? But I decided that that's how I was going to run my practice, just to always be available. So they just feel valued and special, and they can always get hold of me. Whereas other accountants, you do only see them at the end of the year. And they know nothing about you.
Yeah, they're more after the money rather than the actual care and of the actual individual business. What do you want to do with the business in terms of, do you want it to grow? Are you in particular a niche, or what do you want to do with the business?
Well, as of late, I have been thinking. And last year, this is when I decided this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to work predominantly with small businesses. I want to work with them daily, weekly, monthly, grow with them, and always be there for them.
When you say small businesses, what sort of turnover are we talking about from and to?
Well, sort of generally anything from say 250 up to $1 million. You know what I mean? So if you feel like you're sort of at a stuck and you need help, or you don't know how to move on, or I mean, there's so much planning, sort of capital allowances. There is just so much planning to be done as you grow, because things change year on year depending on your profit, your turnover. So there's lots to do. So yes, small businesses. So basically, what I mean is you get sort of tax return people. They come once a year. But boy, do they ask questions and ask questions and ask questions. So now I'm running in a loss with you and you're still asking questions. You know what I mean? So I just think there's no value there for them or for me. You know what I mean? So I feel the real value is working closely with small businesses.
How are you making this happen?
Oh, that's a good question. I have hired a business coach, something I've never ever done. I was feeling a little bit burnt out, you know what I mean? And I must admit, I was starting to waver a little bit because compliance is ridiculous. It's become so tight, all the compliance that we have to do, all the changes, all the company's house, everything's changing chronically all the time. You have to do CPD all the time. So I just sort of reached a point, I thought, it's very laborious sometimes, you know what I mean? So I did hit a bit of a rut this year, and I saw a business coach. Didn't mean to. I just saw a presentation he did, and something sort of just clicked in me, and I thought, this is what I want. He just sort of put that passion back in for me, helped me sort of work through some bottlenecks, and I just feel really invigorated again. I have clarity now in how I want to move forward. So now I've decided to offshore. Back in the day, you had to kind of find someone in India or somewhere and sort of build that rapport and kind of train them yourself. Now companies are doing that. That is their business. They find offshoring people, they hire them, they train them, they put them through CPD, their money laundering, they train them on all the software, and they're very qualified. I'm very impressed. And I find the difference is they are passionate themselves and very eager to get it right. They pay attention to detail, make sure it's accurate. So I've found someone, and I'm currently onboarding an offshoring company.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. And is
so
that
much
something that
change.
Yeah, indeed. So small companies. How are you doing this?
So I found one. I went onto the accountants forum because I know people are always talking about offshoring, and I got a few people. I had some talks with some of them, and I just found the one that really, really said all the right words. You know what I mean? Like the accuracy and detail. And he mentioned sort of practice management software, and he mentioned so much. So I thought, he himself is in London. He's got his own practice, and he's starting his own offshore company. So he's already taken on staff, trained them, etc. And so he's going to work with me. So initially, sort of, you take increments of hours. You know what I mean? So it's not you've got a full-time staff member starting tomorrow. So you give them sort of one task, one company, and you see how they go, and then you grow. So I'm planning he's going to grow with me as I grow with him.
Oh, brilliant. Anyways, where can people find you on social medias?
It's literally Christchurch Accounting Services.
There you go. And are you
I'm on Instagram, Facebook?
LinkedIn? You're on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm not very active, but I plan to be. I'm growing.
Anyway, just before we go, I know something about you that you haven't told. You have a bunny in the office. Yes, a bunny.
I do. My bunny is the talk of my practice.
When we say bunny, we mean a live animal.
A live, fluffy, cute bunny. They are the most interesting pet you will ever come across. She's into everything. You open up a box, she's in there, she nibbles the paper. If you put the folder on the floor by mistake, she will nibble it. She's there all day. When people come visit, she runs up and greets them. We always say, you got to get past Harry.
That's the name of the bunny, Harry.
Harry.
Is Harry. So you get past Bunny and you're in, yeah.
And you're in, yes.
So is he a lucky charm or something, or is it just a bunny?
Just love him. But honestly, my clients literally come to see Harry, and then the next time they come to visit, they bring their partner or something because they've talked all about the bunny, and the person says, "Oh my God, I have to come with. I want to see the bunny." They cannot believe it, and they just fall in love. every time. So cute.
Maybe Harry needs a girlfriend. Lots of buddies in the office. Eloise, you have been a fantastic guest on Entrepreneur Insights. It just goes to show you that not all accountants are boring. Some of us do have a
Exactly.
list, and we actually care about you and your business. And Eloise is proof. Thank you for watching another episode of Entrepreneur Insight. It's been a pleasure. Please subscribe. See you on the next one.
Thank you, Peter.